Okay. I'd first like to say thank you very much, Philip and Leader Vi, for the opportunity to present my work. Yeah, it's really an honor. So yeah, for the first project, I'm going to start with something that I did actually quite some years back in my minor, and it was a project about essentially a methodology of working with the image archiving. So we started off with a collection of images and then working those into sort of workable themes, and sort of just trying to create starting points to create work or to create images from. And a lot of my images sort of had to do with the body and performance and dance. And there's always like this theme of intensity and viscerality. So it seems like something is really coming from inside and wanting to emerge. So I have a big collection of all of these kinds of images of distortions and contortions of the body, not just in physical, but also in like the digital realm as well. Yeah, sort of just like trying to see like where I can have a starting point with this subject matter, and then it kind of led me really to dance and to performance, and particularly I was looking at Alan Platel and the Belgian choreographers from the Flemish wave in the 80s, and I guess then it was contemporary dance, but it was really quite an inspiring thing to watch and to see the way that the way that they use the body, and it seems like everything is in tension all at once at the same time, and to do that also for a long period of time was somehow very interesting. So I also thought that I wanted to do this myself, and I believe Philip has a video that you can play.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a short 30-second excerpt from a 5-hour performance that I did, and that was just listening to music that was very, intense. A lot of Korn, a lot of heavy metal, and these kinds of genres. And from those videos, I sort of tried to extrapolate myself into like these choreographies, kind of Muybridge inspired as well, and sort of trying to identify these moments of climax within all of it. Not necessarily like breaking down movements, but so much trying to find like what I was mentioning before, where the whole body is under tension, and then sort of forming these new like timelines with myself. And then there came a phase where we had to just start to see it in print, or to start to see whether images can be elevated or also changed by medium. And this was some prints that I also made on a UV printer from a very dear friend, Peter Van Ede, very good friend of the school. And yeah, so these prints were made on an open mesh textile and then with a paper backing. So you kind of get this double effect where you have a print underneath and on top. So you can sort of change, the placement of the bodies. And yeah, it basically just became a non-stop process of this and layering images on one another. Trying to really achieve this sense of dynamism in still photography almost, and still trying to feel like it's really alive. And yeah, so then I sort of like transitioned from multiple images of myself to really just like details and just single subjects. Also seeing it printed on a mirror, which is also a print that was made earlier. So it's actually a textile print on a mirror. And yeah, it was really just this whole methodology was kind of, it's not so much about making a grand conclusion at the end. It's more so just like a way of like researching and coming to, just points where you feel like, okay, I know then when to move forward with an idea. So that was a great tool, and it ended up being like these 2.5 meter long prints of myself on an old swimming pool that I cut up. And yeah, it's just a crazy kind of backdrop to have, just I don't know, just a really big version of yourself. But so yeah, that was that project, and I'll now move on to my the first of my graduation projects. This was actually my main project and the one that I think I had the most to say with. And I made a cardboard costume, and it's based off my old school uniform. And it's a retelling of my experience as an adolescent boy growing up in an all boys grammar school. And it sort of has these visual metaphors in there that display the ideal behaviors and the mannerisms that I was expected to kind of adopt. And basically, this was not in line with my interests. So inevitably, like this costume or this uniform became a persona that I would wear to school. It was a facade that I would hide behind, which, you know, kind of made me be everything that I hated. But I sort of needed it in order to be accepted by those around me, to keep people satisfied, to keep my teachers happy with me, to keep my parents supporting me and my friends around me. And I don't believe so much that my story is unique, but I think it's telling that this is an image that I think we still glorify in broader society, and I think it's a trap also that many young men and boys fall into, and that's sort of my comment with this. And you know, sometimes we have to make sacrifices, to become. Yeah, we have to make sacrifices on our authenticity to like chase other things. So I'm going to briefly explain my story as well. So this was me when I was a young boy, and yeah, in an all boys grammar school, it's quite a traditional schooling system. I had to take a test to get in. There was a really quite a like emphasis on academia and the STEM fields, and also in sports. And I mean, to my benefit, I was actually quite sporty, and you know, my grades were good. I had no shortage of friends. I was never bullied, and in a sense, that put me in sort of, you know, like top of the pecking order. Let's say everyone likes you. You know, girls want to be with you. People from the lower years look up to you, and in a sense, it reinforces a character. It's an attitude that everyone wants to champion. You know, this attitude of being the tough guy, to be smart, to be athletic, and witty, funny, successful with women, and also drinking loads of alcohol as well. Whereas, you know, on the side, in my what I would call my real life, I was longing for other things. I was, you know, it's heavily into anime and cosplay. I really love K-pop and makeup. I used to wear makeup from 15 to 18, and I know like boys they can't really see it, but like people did notice on occasion. But I just had all of these things on the side that I really had to feel like I couldn't be proud to enjoy them. And all of these things you can't admit to the first team rugby lads that you're into these things. So yeah, and sort of I think those friends that I call, you know, friends, the fake ones, they're still kind of the same people that they were back then. And I think it's kind of this thing of people's expectations can drive you in the wrong direction. And it's also not to say like it's necessarily wrong, but it's just not for me. And I think people can have should have a bit more room to say that they want something for themselves and not because of anyone else. And I find myself quite fortunate in the sense that I managed to find something that I really genuinely love, which is design and art and you know, these kind of subjects. And I wish that for everyone in a sense. I see myself being a long-term, you know, devotee to this field. But when I talk to my housemates, for example, who do more academic studies, it really seems like sometimes they really hate what they do. And that's also not just students, but also, you know, people that are older as well, when they become dissatisfied with their own career. And I just think, is it your fault, or is it, you know, is this something really rotten about society that is, you know, there's still this idea that you have to choose things to make money or to chase popularity or some other kind of gain other than authenticity. So yeah, so on one hand it is, you know, it's a comment on toxic masculinity, but it's also about choices that everyone makes. And for me, I had to ask myself, do I really surround myself with the right people? Am I being honest and genuine to myself? But also on the flip side as well, like for the parents or for the teachers Do they expect too much of me, or are they allowing me to grow and to follow things that I'm genuinely interested? So that's what that project is about, and yeah, that one touches me quite close. But now, on a lighter note, we have the project, epically supermassive, giganormous, humongous, freaking colossal, capacious, monstrous, curvaceous, mahusive, and whoppingly stupendous and almighty. Oh my god, what the fuck? That thing is so big. So this is the project that is on show at the Dutch Design Week in the grad show, and you know, if you want to see it, it's still on tomorrow. So yeah, these are my 3 wearable bags that are inspired predominantly by cosplay, in particular cosplay weapons and also electric guitars. And the aim really was to translate the feeling of empowerment that is felt by a rock star and translate that into a new arena. So there's something about, I don't know, these images that I have of just like, you know, 80s hair metal guitarists that I just love. You know, it's just a slab of wood with a bit of metal in it, but somehow it brings out all these facial expressions. It, you know, changes the way that people walk. It changes the people, you know, in the way that they hold something. And yeah, I think a guitar is, aside from the technical aspects of it, it's the ultimate vehicle for individual expression. Let's say. So in this sense, I'm treating the guitar as like as a totem. It's jewelry, it's ornamentation, it's an accessory. And I sort of saw that being a similar thing to cosplay, and that's also something that I mentioned before that I used to partake in. And there is no shortage of, you know, 4-meter long swords, and it seems really ridiculous and absurd, but there's something epic about, you know, stepping into the shoes of your favorite character for one day and having to have, you know, just the biggest sword ever. And it's this kind of epicness that I think is kind of also embodied by the rock star. But also I think cosplay has this nice sort of dimension to it, that it has this public aspect as well. Because like, yeah, whenever I would go to a convention, when you see all these cosplayers go on the train and go on the bus, it's really a spectacle, you know. And I think in a way people could use that a lot more, because we're so efficient nowadays apparently that we can't take a second to just look up and just enjoy something for a minute. And it doesn't have to be anything special, but it's just something's there. And I think that's also another aspect that I wanted to achieve with this project as well. Like, for example, the guy in the background, he's obviously having a great time. And I know, I think it takes people just out of the monotony of every day. So yeah, and usually people, they just like ask, oh yeah, what is it? And people are willing to engage. And then I say, oh yeah, it's a bag, and it can open at the back. But the bag is very small, but the accessory is very big, and you can actually take the bag apart and you can swap it out with the other the accessories. So you can kind of change it depending on your mood. And I mean, it's a bit my comment on what is functionality. Essentially, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I think it's kind of a sad warping of this word in the design field and in art, that like functionality is something that has to solve practical issues and has to be convenient and has to have a comfortability or whatever. But in this case, functionality is the aesthetic. The functionality is attitude. It's showing off. It's ornamentation. It's the same reason you put those keychains on your phone and you put a vase in your hallway and hang a painting on the walls. Like, that's not really like practical, is it? But like it does something, and it says something about you. And as a last nod, there's also this element of skins. It's the same kind of thing. It's sort of the idea of like collectability, and you know, the idea that you can like decorate something because it says something about you fundamentally. So yeah, that's my project. Thank you. Yeah.
So what can we say? Oh my God, what the fuck? This is pretty cool.
Right. That's epic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. It's very engaging. totally true, your remarks on functionality. It's very beautiful. We kept our 200 audience. Thank you very much. You all stayed with us to the last time. So Chai, you did a good job in keeping them with us. Thank you for this presentation.
Thank you.
And good luck.